So hello to everyone, no matter where you are in the world. Welcome to this Ragic webinar. It's me, Fabio, again. I will be presenting a webinar about the essential database settings in your database. As you know, other than designing sheets, in order for your organization or for a team to cooperate and collaborate smoothly, essential database settings must be applied to your database in order to have it to be working in the way you like. So basically, I'll be focusing on the start button, the not on the account setup here, instead of like the sheet designs and all like the sheet functions I've previously talked about in previous webinars. So here will be all the settings, and I will be going through most of them, especially the key settings. And in the meantime, I'm just gonna wait for a few minutes to allow more users to join this webinar. And also, I would like to apologize one thing that I'm actually doing this webinar from home because due to the coronavirus outbreak in Taiwan, and I'm actually in a completely different place right now, and also I'm having completely different hardware equipments. So if there are any issues such as sound issues or any issues you've experienced in the webinar, please let me know as soon as possible through the live chat box, which should be located on the right side of your screen if you are watching this webinar on YouTube, or on the bottom part if you are watching this from a mobile device. And also in the chat zone, feel free to ask any questions if you would like, and I'll answer you guys during the stream. And in the meantime, let's wait for a few more users to join, and you can ask your questions if you'd like right now. All right, it's 9:34 a.m. in my time zone, which is Taiwan in the GMT plus 8 time zone, and I guess it's a great time to start this webinar now. So let's get everything started. So in order to collaborate in a Ragic database, you need your colleagues, your employers, anybody related to your organization and your database to be able to be in your database. So in order to have them in your database, they need to be added as users. So this will be the first part and the most essential part in this webinar, because you need your users to be in your database in order for them to work. So all the settings, I would say 99.9% of all your overall database settings are under here in account setup. Let's go here. And when you enter account setup, the first page you'll see is your users page. This is where you can add your users in your database. So if you have purchased, for example, 10 subscribed users, all you need to do is, first of all, make sure that you have 10. You'll be certain that you can add 10 users right here. Currently, I've only added 5. So in order for you to add new users, just click on new. Internal, you just first of all enter their email. So I'm just gonna write @email.com, full name. Full name, Fabio Pro. And in order for the Ragic groups, by default they will add you as a user in the user group. I will talk about user groups in more details afterwards. But if you need to add them to different user groups, just click under this downward arrow thing, and there will be a drop-down menu, and you can select which group he or she will be part of. Accounting, management, etc. There's also other employee information where you can add employee number, title, company, department, and also you can't modify anything from here in the system information apart from the status. So if you would like one user to be moved out from your database, instead of deleting the user completely, in the future you can just simply set the user as suspended. Then he or she will not have access to your database in the future. And also there's other contact information, signature, just like a normal user's, like those employee information form, employee data form where you have to fill out when you've just entered a new organization, I guess. And also, yeah, you can upload a picture here too. So basically I have all of these done in my database. If I would like to add the user, all I need to do is just press save. And one thing that you need to make sure is that in order to make your users, every user as one individual user, you need to make sure that each user will have their own unique emails, or else the system won't add you in the database, and as well as a unique full name, because the full name will be displayed in certain user-related fields or places, such as selecting a user in a select user field, assign user field, or selecting a task and assigning it to a certain users. The username will be displayed in those places, so they have to be unique. Otherwise, you can't differentiate them when there are duplicated names. So in certain, I wouldn't say unfortunate, but rare cases, so you may have a lot of Alan Smiths or other duplicated names. You need to find ways to differentiate their naming identities, such as maybe adding their middle names, or maybe adding their other nicknames or something like that. But since I'm not adding the new user in my database, I'm just gonna click cancel right here. And these are all my other accounts. I'm just gonna let you guys see what I actually did with them. So I've also added this account, Fabio@ragic.com, as a sysadmin. A sysadmin user group will be basically when you add a user to the sysadmin user group, he or she will have complete control of the database, such as designing new sheets, accessing the account setup place, and all those, and you can apply all other settings. And if needed, you can there are some after saving an email, saving a user, uh, how would I say that? Username, a user account actually. There are other actions if needed, such as you can reset their password if they unfortunately forgot their password. You can reset it for them. Entry owner transfer. So basically, it transfers their their own entries to another user. You can change their email if needed. Suspend the user, resend their information, or send a custom email. And that's all about your users. Just make sure that if they are internal users in your database, please add them right here and assign them to the correct user groups. And now one question you might ask is, what are external users? So external users are basically, they are users in your database technically, but they are external, meaning that they're not like the real internal members of your database. They could be partners, vendors. It's like some other roles that aren't internally associated with your organization, but they will have limited rights. They can only be survey users or viewers. So meaning that they can only add or manage their own entries, or they can only view all entries. So all you have to do is add them as external users if needed. So this is where you add new other external users. Again, just click on new and fill out the form, and the external user will be added in your database. However, on the other hand, you can also have this page. There's an approved request page. This link will allow your external users to submit their request. Let's just go to form page. So if an external user such as a client, for example, you're managing probably like a product and a sales database, and you would like to allow your clients to sort of like register their own data and have their own user account. All they need to do is submit an database access request, and then you can approve or reject their request. If you approve them, they will be added as external users to your database, and if you reject them, they're not. So overall, they're just users in your database, but they are not internal members of your organization. They are external, so they will have limited access rights to your sheets. And one thing to keep in mind that before you can add external users to your database, you have to fill out this form and to saying that you need this function and you need to have this form approved by us. So make sure, and also filling out the form, make sure that your submit email or is an organizational email, such as for us is at Ragic.com. We have an organizational domain, so we won't accept those applications filled out from, for example, gmail.com, hotmail.com, those email domains. Also, on the other hand, external users are free and unlimited without any cost. So feel free to, if you are using this function, feel free to add as many of them as you'd like. But just make sure that they do not use the same email, those company email domains as you, because that means they are members of your organization and they have to be added as internal users, which do have a cost in terms of your subscription. And finally, talking about users, one very key point is groups. So groups is how Ragic differentiates your access rights. So for example, on one sheet, I think I've performed it if it's not in the last webinar, it should be in some previous webinars. I think I've done it pretty many times. So I have quite a few user groups here. So this is how we differentiate your your access rights to your sheets. So for example, on a sheet I can say the management can be the sysadmin, not the sysadmin, the admin of the management sheet, meaning that users in this group can basically view and modify all entries if needed. And if that's the case, some other groups will be set as survey users or even no rights if they should not be related to those management sheets. And you see this X user groups. This is the system default group for external users. So such as clients, vendors, partners. So external users will be by default added to this group. And if needed, you can create new external user groups so for example, if I need another external user group, I'm just going to add a name called X management. Click on save. So this is an X management group, then this is an X user group. Both are external users group because they are started with an X dash. And by default, this is by default added to the users group because your users need to be assigned to a user group in order to have access rights to any of the sheets. And if you add them to this sysadmin user group, this means that he or she is having the same access rights as you. So basically, he or she will have probably all the privileges possible in Ragic. And if you need to make your access rights in more details, all you need to do is just click on new and just what I've done, just add another group name. So for example, I'm going to say South Marketing and save. And that's a new users group created. If needed, you can just basically add one user to different users groups so they can have sort of like different access rights to, for example, if you are like a director and you have access rights to multiple departments sheets, all you need to do is add the director to those users groups, and if they're a part of that users group and that user group has the access rights to the sheets, the director can access those sheets. And if you would really like to make it very detailed, just create more groups, make more detailed assignments to your group sheets, not group sheets, to your sheets regarding your groups, and that's how access rights is controlled in Ragic. And also this will be related to the feature settings, meaning that which features you have access and be able to use to. And I'll talk about that later. Let's just go to this access rights thing. So instead of going to each sheet and modify the access rights individually on every sheet, we do have a global access rights panel. It's like this. On the horizontal area shows all the users groups possible. And on here, like on the vertical parts, the vertical axis basically shows all the sheets in your group, in your database. My apologies. And just clicking on any cell, you can simply modify the access rights. External users can only be viewers and survey users as mentioned. You just select external users to be able to access the classes sheet. The accounting have no rights. HR could be bulletin users. IT could be admin. They can be modified from here. And after your modification is completed, just click on save. And basically, your adjusted access rights settings will be applied right here. This is how access rights and users work in Ragic. So just remember that each user will be in a certain user group, and this user group will basically be used for managing access rights on all of your sheets and also featuring access rights. If needed, you can add one user to multiple users groups or create more user groups for detailed access rights settings. And finally, external users are users that aren't in your organization. They could be vendors, clients, partners, etc. And they can be added unlimitedly as long as they do not share the same email domain with you and they're not in your organization. But please make sure that please make sure that they only have limited access rights. So that's more about the users parts, and let's go to the next part, which is account building, backup and restore, recent changes. These are more to like those, I would say it's more towards the system. Let me just briefly go through them. So account billing will be basically where you will be paying your bills. Let's just click on them right here. So currently I haven't, if this is the page if you haven't subscribed but you are in the free trial, you're in the 30-day free trial session, it will ask you which plan you would like to subscribe and pay for. And if you would like to, say for example, I'm using the professional plan and I would like to subscribe, just click on the subscribe button and you'll be able to fill out your orders, for example, number of users, price, and then what's your billing cycle, and credit card and debit card. I'm just gonna apologize for now because I'm actually using a Chinese, traditional Chinese computer, so there will be some Chinese on the page. But basically, this is where for you to fill out your credit card information and stuff, and just follow those steps, and then you'll complete your subscription online in your database. And after you have completed your subscription, if you would like to modify your subscription, your payments, just come back to the account billing page and you'll be directed to that paying page and you can modify them from here. And for backup and restore, this is really important. If you if you need a backup of your database, for example, you may encounter a hugely big change in your database and you're fearing that there could be errors. If you fear that, just come to backup and restore, either download a previously automated backup file or manually backup from the backups here. This is where you download a manual backup. And if you only want the sheets, but you don't want the data, so the file will be much smaller, just back up the database definition only. And just simply wait, after everything's done, click on backup, it will download a file to your database. And also, please remember that if you are backing up and restoring your data onto other databases that are on other servers, please make sure that you download it as a compressed backup format in order for it to work. How do you differentiate your servers, know which server you're on? Please look at the first three letters of your URL. So for example, I'm an AP2 server. There could be an EU2, NA2, AP3, AP5, etc. As long as these three letters are different, these three letters of your database that you're restoring from is different from the database that you are backing up right now, please download it as a compressed backup format, which is just click on the drop down menu and just click on this one. Yeah, it will take more system sources, but it's needed if that happens. Whoops, let me just go back up and restore. And if you already have downloaded a restore file, just click on the restore and then upload the file. It should be here, it's like a select file, but since I'm using a Chinese computer, it's displaying Chinese right now. Whoops. And also, please make sure that if you are restoring a backup file, it will completely overwrite the database that you are using it right now. So if I'm restoring for example, a Ragic organizational database into my database right now, If I click on restore, all these sheets, webinar 04s, will be completely wiped out and overwritten by the database I'm restoring from. So please keep in mind with that. And after going to backup and restore, finishing talking about it, let's go to recent changes. So recent changes shows all the changes that you have made in your database, including data changes, including sheet design changes, including new records, etc. So you can, this right here, it shows basically all the modifications I've done in terms of regarding my data. So I've added a new group, modify global constants, modify feature access settings, remove sheets, etc. And if it's talking about database design changes, so all the modifications I've done previously, they will be all recorded down here. So as a ping and quote modified classes form page, class registration form page, etc. And in addition, if you feel that there's too much history, I need to find a certain badge or even one certain history faster. How do I do it? Clicking on here, there's a history filter. You can select a filter by a certain sheet, or add a filter by a calendar, and also add another filter by username. And after all your filters are completed, let's click on search. So it will publish the histories in according to the filters you've selected, and you'll find your histories or certain batch of histories much easier. This only works for like those recent changes in terms of your data, and that's how you find the history of your database. Each history will be recorded in your database as long as they are processed correctly. And quickly go through job schedules. So if you have other workflows such as reminders or certain JavaScript workflows, they will be listed down here, and they will show you which job type it is, when's the execution time, and what time zone it is, and all other details will be listed down here. Since I don't have any workflows set to my database, and if you're using JavaScript workflows, that means some code writings, and then I don't have them right now. And also one thing that will also be published here is periodic imports. I haven't set any of them right here, but if you have set them up, since it's periodic, it's technically a job. I'd say a job workflow or workflow job. It'll be listed down here. And last but not least, on those system setting parts, let's go to DB maintenance, which means database maintenance. So I'll be focusing on the top 5 button, the sections here. So if you need to, especially these two are somewhat important if needed. So my apologies. So if you need to reset your database connection, you can simply click on this. What it does is it sort of like clears the caches of your database and resets the connection. So for example, you may have a field that's not populating correctly, or it's not loading, your page is not loading in the right way. If you see this, and all you can do is just click on this button and it will sort of like reload your database, and they should be working in the correct manner. Rebuild search engine index. Since for this is like a manual rebuilding your search engine index. So for example, you may have just added a new record and the system hasn't added that index to the search engine as yet. You can manually click on this button, and then you'll be able to search the new record by the index. And let me just respond to the user RHSTRM. Ragic is available, I would say, worldwide. All you need to do is register for a database at www.ragic.com, and your data will be stored online in your database, and You can create new sheets, do other customizations you like, apply our functions, and also like those settings. These are sort of like the advanced settings after you like to reorganize your database. But feel free to register for a database and start your 30-day free trial if you like. And if you have any questions, just feel free to message us. I would still suggest you guys do it from the need help button to submit a support ticket if needed. And continue. So basically, the rebuild search index is sort of like it basically like resets your search index, so your records could be searchable via the index. And download data dictionary and data archiving, I would say they're pretty self-explanatory, but you rarely need to use them. And in some unfortunate events, you want to delete this account completely, you can click on this button, and then your account will be completely deleted. So if you I would like to reiterate that if in Ragic your data will be safely preserved if you do not use your database, but if you haven't made a subscription and you haven't modified your plan to the free plan, and you didn't even pay for it, you haven't made your next payment, I would say, Ragic will lock your database, but your data will be safely preserved. So you don't need to worry about that. Where is the data stored? Our data are stored in Google servers, so it's in the cloud. But if needed, you can also install an on-premise option. So if you install an on-premise option, you'll first of all, you'll need your own servers, and your Ragic database will be completely stored over there. So after talking about these sort of like the system-wide settings, I'll be going to a very key part. Basically, I would say probably like the most important part of this webinar, which is company settings. So company settings, basically, it's sort of like a system sheet where you can set your database, add settings to your database. So for example, if you have an organization name, you can enter it right here. And if you like to add a logo or a favicon, so if you like to add a logo or a favicon right here, if you add a logo, this will replace the Ragic logo on the top left corner of your database screen, and it will add your custom favicons right here. And if you would like to add other custom banners, it will replace basically this top part of the Ragic banner. Like this, I mean, we're currently on a completely blank page right now. It will replace this completely. And this is more for like those, it's more towards the custom design side and the user, the interface side. And if needed, you can also, if you have your own domain, you can set it up right here. And there's a login banner, login logo, which you can upload and replace the Ragic logos and the Ragic banners if needed. And also we have some greeting messages / screen, which you can basically change those settings and customize them for yourself. And contact information, you can also set them up right here, so it will list your contact information. Well, one very important thing is the security settings. This is for your users when they are registering for their own user account in your database. So for example, password complexity, you can set it as high or medium, and we're telling you that. We've told you here, right? Setting to high will require numbers and special characters, so you may need to set a more complex password for users. And you can set a, say that change password for every number of days. But are you allowed to reuse your old password? What's the default password when the admin password is when the admin resets a user's password? And there's also saying about auto logouts, file download with user authentication it also mentions right here what it works right here. So if the file download with user authentication status yes, forwarding a mail containing the file download link to a third party recipient will cause the link to expire. And also we've added a new function right here, which is basically new, which is pretty new, and I don't think I've talked about it in my last webinar talking about company settings. So if you would like your users, when they log in, you would like to enforce two-step authentication, meaning that when they log in, they need to also enter another system code sent to them via email or SMS, and you would like to enforce that. You can set it as yes or no. And also some overall account settings. So what is the local time zone? What's your default job execution time? And like a certain time you would like to execute a certain job. What is your default language? Currently it's, right now the default language could be English, Chinese traditional, Chinese simplified. And regarding default number format and default money format, this will be applied to when you are designing these fields in your sheets. So if you for example, if you have set your default number format, it will be applied to your numeric fields and also the default decimal separators and thousand separators. If you set them, these will be applied to your newly designed numeric fields. And there's date formats will be applied to date fields. So for example, my default date field would like to be DDMMYYYY. This format will be applied to this to the date fields when I design this field on a certain sheet. And also, what's the default first day of the week? It will be in reference to basically like the weeks. I think will also be applied in formulas if needed. And enable access requests as external users. So you can enable the access request as I've mentioned right here in the external users previously. And yes, I can select to enable it, and default separate on multiple select fields. So if on multiple select fields, you can also add a default like what's the separator if you would like to, for example, set it as default values and for multiple select fields. So you can select which one you like. And if you apply new settings, like what I've just did right here, let me just click on save. If you've decided to modify a setting, the settings, please make sure that these not empty fields must, like those fields with the star, they must be filled in right here. So I was getting 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me just fill it in right here in order to save it. And when you save and update the company settings sheet, it will reload. All right, let me just answer one of the question. Basically, Ragic is I would say is a database tool that allows users to design their own database by creating their own sheets, adding their own users, and using the features such as linking sheets up, adding custom workflows together, and all of these could be done without a line of code. So you don't need an IT specialist to do it for you, meaning that you can do it by yourself if you are familiar with your company's data processing workflow. And since its interface, it looks similar to Excel. So if you are familiar with Excel, this means that it can help you to get on with Ragic as soon as, I would say much faster. So I hope that answers your question. And there's also some connection restrictions. So if a certain IP address must be restricted, you can list it right here, and also some connection times and connection days. And system mail settings. So if you have your own mail servers and you would like to reply to email or reply to name, you can add them right here. So such as enable custom SMTP settings. This is where you'll be setting up your basically this will be setting up your database, basically your mail servers right here. And if you are using the enterprise plan, which is the only feature that only allows the enterprise plan to use it, is a single sign-on setting. So if you have configured an Active Directory single sign-on right here, the server location is configured right here. However, most of the other Active Directory settings will be configured in, I think it's called a software called ADFS. So interestingly, Ragic, basically this word is sort of like derived from rapid and magic. I think that's a cool fact for you guys. So where did it come from? Basically, we're an organization from Taiwan, and we're a software company in Taiwan. So yeah, I would say that Ragic comes from Taiwan completely, and yeah, and of course the founder of Ragic is also from Taiwan. Hope that answers your question. And this is where you will be modifying your company settings right here. And regarding feature access settings, this is where you modify the features for your user groups. So which groups should be able to use a certain feature? Can they import data from a file? I've only set it for the sysadmin to be able to import and import data from file, but everyone could download from the listing page and the form page. By here, when it says everyone, this really means everyone. So even if it's in the global access panel or in any sheet settings, if everyone is granted a certain access rights, everyone will have access to the sheets. And right here it says everyone. It means basically everyone could use this feature as long as they have access to the sheet they can do. And also there are other features, so it says mass email, mass SMS, mass delete. Currently I've only enabled to assist admin because I would suggest that if you are doing like an overall modification of your data, that means I would say only restricted to the sysadmin, because it could be a little bit risky when you allow a certain user group to use these functions and they accidentally do this. And unfortunately, this will affect your data. And basically mass actions, sometimes you may not acknowledge that you've done a certain action to a certain record, because they are done they're done massively. And also fast delete, please also enable to the sysadmin only, because by clicking on this question mark, it says that can only use it when fast delete function is enabled from company settings. And also fast delete, it will not create a record in the recent changes. It will simply just quickly delete your data. And also there's some sidebars. I would basically allow almost everybody to have access to the sidebar, definitely, except probably shared views wouldn't be ideal, because if you allow everyone to add their own shared views, your filtering on the left, your views on the left-hand sidebar will be a bit complicated. So currently I've only set it as a sysadmin, and there's also other basic actions which you can decide which users could be able to have access to, and also reports and the things on the home page. This is about the features access settings. And overall, it's basically a page where you decide which user groups can use which features. And finally, let's quickly go through global constants. So if you add a global constant, it's basically a certain constant value which you can apply to your workflows or your formulas. Currently, I've added 3 constants for my personal testing actually. And if I would like to use these constants in a formula, all I need to do is reference this by a small letter C underscore and then the constant name. So for this constant name as example, if I would like to reference it in a formula, all I need to do is, I'm just going to write in the comment section here, it's this, C underscore CC. Reference value in the form. So if my constant value is 99 and I would like to get it to 100, and if I would like to get it to 100, so C underscore CC 1 will equal to 100. This is how it works. That is how you use global constants. Use global constants and the formulas on your sheets. And if you need to add a new global constant, just like adding a new user, just click on new and add a new constant value here. And also please make sure that which constant type you would like to use it could be a text, a number, or an array. And you can set an affected time and expiry date right here too. Just leave here. And notification settings, it's an overall user notification settings right here. Whoops. And you can either enable, disable, or disable them. And if you enable them, you can click on the settings. And it will show which settings this users could be, basically the notification settings for this certain user. And this is for all the users in your database individually, but there's one place where you can set the settings for yourself, which is not in the account setup page, but it's under your username. And there's a personal settings area. Click on this, there'll be a pop out. You can change your name, change your password, add your own phone number, add your own images. Decide for yourself whether to enable a 2-step authentication, or you need also notify deputy, and also add your signatures here. According to about notifications, this is here. As you can see, this was the page that was similar to the page that just opened. But I can only set up for me right here instead of all the other internal users here as a sysadmin. And also there's certain other preferences for your user experience and user interface, such as show fly-ins, display email address or phone numbers, show pencil icon for editing a listing page, and also the default number of entries shown per page in the listing page. This is for the personal settings area. And if talking about like the user interface translations, you can select, you can choose, for example, you may want to translate your database into Dutch, but currently we do not support the Dutch language here. You can customize the translations here. But in terms of system languages, currently, other than English, Chinese Simplified, and Chinese Traditional, we're currently adding Japanese and Spanish here. So these languages are currently added, and if you it's still in like the testing phase but you guys can try it out. You guys can try it out and see if these languages work correctly for you guys. And if you basically if you find any glitches or any suggestions, feel free to email us with the screenshots or some suggestions if you'd like. But we do have certain experts working on this, so we're fine with suggestions, but it will be all down to those language experts to see whether they would like to modify them or not. And also, let's just finally go to the recycle bin, which is where all your deleted stuff will be located as long as you have not cleared them. And here's all the sheets and all the records I've deleted. I can select to either empty, of course, just like any recycle bins, I can click on empty recycle bins, or I can select to restore certain sheets, certain records, or just certain bits of data. It will be recording it by an action, so mass delete will be a complete restore action of all the records I've just removed. And this is where, if you accidentally found something that's missing, feel free to come to the recycle bin, and then you should be able to find it right here if they are actually deleted in the right way. And this is all about the account setup part, and there's basically some things I need to mention before completing this webinar. First, actually, I should answer this question right here, since I just saw it before I was starting my new section. From user Clifford Lee. If I want to create a staff directory database, should I use the user in account setup, or should I create a new database? If so, can I link to the user database? Great timing, because I'm actually going to talk about this right now. So, first of all, do not modify anything. Try not to modify the design of the user sheet, the external user sheet, the group sheet, company settings sheet. Like this is like in a sheet form. A sheet form. Do not modify. Try not to go to change design unless you've been asked to do so, or like when it's absolutely necessary. This is because this is a system sheet, and if you make changes to them, it can be possible that you'll destroy your whole database, because I mean they are system default sheets. So when I click on change, if I click on change design, Ragic, if this will actually send you guys an email to guide you through the new user setup, but please do not change those. If you're forced to change the settings on these sheets, please do not move any of these fields that are already set up. Please don't even move the locations. But it will be fine if you can add new sheets. Not new sheets, add new fields. And if needed, such as user Clifford Lee said, if you want to create a staff directory, yes, you can use it from the user sheet. But if you're actually adding more details, what we can do is, as Ragic staff, please email them to us. Please email us saying that you have this need, and we can help you install sort of like I would say like, it's not like a system sheet under account setup, but it'll be a system sheet under a new tab. But it will be sort of like a multiple versions of your user sheet and your external user sheet. So this could be a place for your staff directory, and you can add fields, rearrange the fields, etc. right there. But just please do not do it on the sheet under the account setup place. And also in the company settings page, this will be even more important. So if you go to change design, we actually have this really, I would say it's a really cool message and very straightforward. Please do not edit the design of this form unless you absolutely know what you are doing. So when you come to the company settings form, please do not edit the design of this form. Please don't, since this will completely affect your database. So that is basically how you apply the settings in your database. So make sure that you apply the correct settings for your users, for your user groups, and so they can have the correct access rights to your sheets if needed. And this for the system-wide area, I would say the most important place, I would probably say that account building and backup and restore will be heavily used, especially account building because you still have to pay for your database, unfortunately. But if your backup and restore is basically in some certain situations where you may need to download a backup if you're doing a big modification of your database, such as a huge change, a huge design change in your database, such as relinking the fields, etc. I would say download a manual backup before you do so to prevent data loss. And also company settings. If you're applying overall settings to your database, feel free, you're basically doing them right here. These are very important. And also recycle bins is where your all your data, all your deleted data, all your removed data will be right here. And just like any other recycle bins, you can empty the recycle bins, restore the certain sheets or data, or delete it completely. And that's basically it for the settings in the database. And if you are and also talking about some new features, other than click on the need help button to submit a support ticket, we actually support CRISP. We actually have CRISP enabled in the database where you can contact our support staff via chat. So you can, it's basically in this icon in the bottom right corner. It replaced the Ragic bot that we previously had. So you can click on this, and unfortunately it's in Chinese right now. But you'll be able to contact our support staff, and we'll answer you as soon as possible. However, I would still suggest that if your question is in more detail, such as the design, like sheet designs or certain workflow designs, I would still suggest either sending us an email or clicking on the need help button to submit a support ticket. So the advantage of the support ticket in these scenarios would be that your explanations could be more thorough with more details, and we can understand it and have some more time to figure out the questions thoroughly. And by chat, sometimes you won't be able to deliver those informations as clearly as possible. And also our responses, because it's more like a chat mode, I our responses won't be as, I wouldn't say professional, but for me, it won't be as detailed, as thorough as possible, as responding to your support tickets. But either way, feel free to contact us via the two platforms. And once you use CRISP, personally, I would suggest that if you're just curious about a certain feature or curious about a small function, or probably or maybe even pricing, feel free to message us via script, and we can respond it more rapidly. Since it's more like a smaller scenario, but you may want to know the results or know the answer as fast as possible, and we can respond. Then we can communicate via CRISP chat. So that's it for the database settings and some of the new and the CRISP new feature that I've just talked to you about today. And also, one thing I haven't went through was the personal settings of the two-step authentication. So if I decide to turn it on, first of all, let's click on this question mark right here. Enhance your account's security with a two-step authentication. Once configured, you must enter your password and verification code. Let me hide, oops. Of the password, why do I keep on clicking and hiding it? Password and verification code from your mobile phone each time you log in and out, log into your Ragic account. So if I decide to enable them, it will go through the settings. I have to enter my password here. Whoops. Guess there's a glitch right here. I will have to go check with my developers. And basically, this is where you'll be going through the settings. There might be a bug right here. I'll be checking it with my developers if needed. But those settings are pretty straightforward. It basically says which set up your mobile phone for your settings or how you'll receive those codes, etc. But when this is enabled, every time you log in, you need other than your password, you need this verification code that the system sent to your mobile other device. And that's about it for today. I'll be taking some other questions. Some of your questions if you'd like to ask anything about Ragic right now. And also thanks for you guys to participate in this webinar. Especially during the circumstances in Taiwan where I actually have to work from home. Just feel free to ask any Ragic questions or even questions about this webinar in the chat zone in your YouTube stream. About the two-step authentication feature in Ragic for logins, basically it should be able. Basically it's already there, but I think there might be a small glitch. Unfortunately, I'll be checking with our developers after this webinar, but it should be actually available. For your own account, just go to personal settings and enable two-step authentication and go through those settings. Let me try again. Yeah, I think there's an issue with the next page. I have to go check with our developers, unfortunately. And I apologize for this issue. Also, I would actually like to ask, maybe especially to user Clifford Lee, since I've seen you quite a few times participating in our previous webinars. Is my sound all right, or is there any other issues with this webinar? Because I'm actually in a completely different setting from my previous webinars. And if there are, please tell me so I could at least make changes to the next webinar if unfortunately I will have to do it at home. Thanks to Clifford for your clarification. I highly appreciate that. So I'll be around for another 2 minutes for your questions. And if you have any other questions if you have any other questions in the future, feel free to contact us either via the need help button to submit a support ticket, or if you would like to, you can also try with our new chat feature on the bottom right corner here. Is there a guest user function? Whoops. Oh yes, we do allow a guest user function. So, I mean, if you go to code, whoops. Why is it on this page? All right, there's something. Let me refresh this page a bit. So if you want to allow a guest user, so for example, you can share this entry read only or editable to allow guest users permissions and they will be able to edit the record via a link. Oh, this for all of your information. This is a sheet that I've created last time in my last webinar. And also, if you added another email field here, there's also a guest user email validation. So this is basic, I would say, the guest users functions right here. And if you would like to set this sheet as completely public, just go to form settings and enable everyone as with their correct access rights. So it's 10:40 now in my time zone. I'm GMT plus 8 time zone. It's 10:40 a.m. So I guess it's time to conclude this webinar, and thanks to all you guys for participating and all your questions. I highly appreciate them. And about the glitch, I will go check with our developers, and we'll get it fixed as soon as possible. And thanks to you guys, and we'll see you guys in the near future. In the it's probably will be in the next webinar, probably in June, probably 4 or 5 weeks from time right here. And thanks to all you guys, and we'll see you next time.